Oh my. Homeless. There 4 days. That is. Oh, actually.
I am solid now. But I don't think he's one of them. Wait, no. I hate knowing these things. I hate it all.
That her husband Bill is boss.
I just want you to keep that one.
She pulled back, sorry. Is that what
I was so a while.
So you'll vote for me for speaker?
And here's how I emailed him.
I think I will look at it.
The whole entry.
Yeah.
Good.
I think that's. It's all. He's kind of.
Yeah. But
What's up?
No.
Council Mayor. Go.
So I have this thing. So I got this. And I sent it together with the dictionary. So
You want some green juice?
apparently,
It's not even like this.
without this, it's open. I'll do it. I would.
Now.
So I'm feeling.
I did.
Okay, then what's the deal?
I know.
It's Grace. I was Grace.
Yeah.
Do something.
Oh, I didn't get the line. I've been in the room 75. So.
When we were in.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just. I don't think
Passed away.
We remember your last game.
Sorry, I. So it's like.
She's like, she's parent. She's gonna be parent. She's gonna yell at you and then find you. He's having a. What? Something together. Yeah, it's.
I now call this meeting of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association Student Senate to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to begin our Student Senate meeting taking place on Thursday, March 2nd, 2023, with a land acknowledgement. We recognize that Kansas State University, as the first land-grant institution, stands on the ancestral lands of the Kaw people. Our state of Kansas is home to 4 federally recognized Native nations: the Iowa, Kickapoo, Prairie Band Potawatomi, and Sac and Fox. We must remember that the land serving as the foundation for this institution was and still is stolen land acquired by white settlers. We pledge our commitment to creating decolonized spaces at the university while advocating for the support and future success of Indigenous faculty, staff, and students at K-State. And with that, Interim Speaker Pro Tempore Atchison will take it away with our first roll call.
Anderson. Bannister. Barron.
Here.
Bellamy.
Here.
Blood.
Here.
Broughton.
Here.
Brown. Compton.
Here.
Hoy.
Here.
Questa.
Here.
Dennis.
Here.
DePaz.
Here.
Dole.
Here.
Glasscock.
Here.
Griffith.
Here.
Hoffman.
Here.
Kamen.
Here.
Kappelman.
Here.
Urshan.
Here.
Kidd.
Here.
Hermer.
Here.
Hensy.
Here.
Long.
Here.
Murphy. Naretti. Navarro.
Here.
O'Malley.
Here.
Pelton.
Here.
Phillips.
Here.
Pilchard.
Here.
Bondillo.
Here.
Rogers.
Here.
Sia Carly.
Here.
Sia Nick.
Here.
Solomon.
Here.
Schweier. Spindler.
Here.
Stroud. Sushanik.
Here.
Talbert.
Here.
Dimgen.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Vogelmore.
Here.
And Wolf.
Here.
Okay, thanks. Murphy.
Thanks, Bryce. With that, we'll go ahead and move into our first open period this evening. Are there any first open period speakers? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into approval of the minutes. The minutes were distributed on Tuesday along with the agenda, or excuse me, Wednesday, along with the agenda and legislation tracking information. Are there any questions or corrections for the minutes? Senator Blood,
Yes, under first open period,
give me 1 minute. I'm going to open them so I can take notes. Go ahead.
under first open period, can we have culture of respect collective presented? And then under announcements, can we actually copy them from the agenda?
Yes.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions or corrections for the minutes? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes? Senator Pilchard,
Motion to approve the minutes.
it's been moved and seconded. Senator Blood.
I object.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded and objected to approve the minutes. Senator Cameron? No. We'll go ahead and move into a hand vote on the motion to approve the minutes. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please raise your placards. Proxies raised 2. All opposed, same sign. Okay, that motion carries. The minutes will stand approved. Bryce, please note all that in the minutes. Ryan made the motion. Anyway. He had corrections and then Ethan moved to approve them. Brian objected to the approval. We took a hand vote and the motion carried. Senator Blood,
Point of information, does this mean that the minutes are now the original ones that you sent out or the amended copy?
the Brian, did you objected to the corrections to the minutes?
Negative. I objected to approving the minutes instead of approving them as amended. If someone would like to make a motion,
Oh.
to reconsider, I would second.
No, we're moving on. Announcements. First up, you can click that link to RSVP to the end of the year banquet. We're gonna have Chick-fil-A catering. It'll be next Thursday, March 9th. In here at 5:30, we'll give out our end of the year awards that I've been advertising on the agenda. I know I didn't include that this time, but those nomination forms are still open until either tonight at midnight or tomorrow night at midnight. So there's not very many nominations, so please get more nominations in there. That'll be a really fun time, and we'll just sort of wrap up and reflect on the term there also. And then next up, we have the Kansas State University inaugural day of service that the Division of Facilities is putting on. That's going to be from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday, March 25th. They're doing a big push to continue the campus beautification efforts. So there's going to be a lot of exterior projects like mulching and painting. You can click that link on the registration form to register to go to that by 5 p.m. on March 17th, and the event will be on March 25th. And then we have the proxy form there. So if you're going to be absent from the Student Senate for any reason, you can fill out that proxy form. And then we have the Student Senate Zoom request form. So if you're still able to attend Student Senate via Zoom, you can fill out that request form and I will send you the Zoom link. And then if you want to give props to someone in Student Senate, you can fill out the Senate shout out form. And interim pro tempore, or for some of you in the crowd, interim Student Senate Secretary Atchison will read the Senate shout outs at the end of the meeting. And the member of the week this week is Natalie Noose. Natalie's been doing a great job serving as both the elections commissioner and a member of the judicial branch. So thank you for all your hard work and support of SGA and KSU students, Natalie. And upcoming events calendar, added the end of the year banquet there. And sorry, Peyton took away the emerging leaders coordinator or the emerging leaders program meeting. And the quote of the week this week is, "Never let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game." Babe Ruth. And with that, we'll go ahead and move into commendations for the evening. Up first, we have resolution 65. Is there a motion to consider resolution 65? Senator Cameron.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to consider resolution 65. If the author will please come forward. Oh, yeah, you got it. Thank you.
Okay, that's on. Okay, sorry. Whereas on February 16th through February 19th, 2023, the award-winning Kansas State University Black Student Union hosted the 46th annual Big 12 Conference on Black Student Government entitled Health, Wealth, and Knowledge of Self. Whereas through this event, many different schools from around the Big 12 and more got to experience the climate and culture that the Black Student Union embodies at Kansas State University. Whereas Caleb Stevens, Ray Lewis Taunton, Lawrence Moss, Maggie Anderson, St. Clair Detrick Jews, Kevin Richardson, and Tamika Mallory were invited to speak about their activism, tell their stories and expertise. Whereas students also attended workshops that included ways to face adversity, bring each other up, and more. Whereas attendees of this event engaged in other diverse activities around KSU, including the annual drag show and gospel choir showcasing African-American talent, thus engaging and uplifting the climates that KSU students promote. And whereas this event's engagement to the campus and community is unmatched and will be remembered. Be it resolved that Section 1, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association applauds the nationally acclaimed Black Student Union on the time and commitment committed to organizing an event that uplifts diversity, the work, effort, and fight for a better culture at KSU and around does not go unnoticed. Section 2, upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the student body president, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to Black Student Union President Christopher Burrow, Interim Associate Vice President of Diversity and Multicultural Student Affairs, Myrta Chavez, Director of Intercultural Learning and Academic Success, Deborah Bolton, Director of Diversity and Multicultural Student Life, Kevin Santos Flores, Assistant Director of Student Engagement for Diversity and Multicultural Student Affairs, Graciela Berumen, Program Coordinator for Diversity and Multicultural Student Affairs, Brandon Clark, Program Administrator for Diversity and Multicultural Student Affairs, Adam Carr, Vice President for Student Life and Dean of Students, Dr. Thomas Lane, and University President, Dr. Richard Minton.
Thanks, Manny. Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Caucus Leader Kidd.
Yeah, so for line 42, can we add doctor in front of Graciela?
Are there any further questions or corrections? Senator Blood.
On line 8, we had a comma after 20.
Are there any further questions or corrections? Senator Dennis.
On line 43 for multicultural student affairs, Dr. Brandon Clark.
Thank you. Are there any further questions or corrections? Okay, seeing none, thanks so much, Manny. You can take your seat. And with that, is there a motion to approve Resolution 65 unanimously? Senator Cuesta.
I move to approve resolution 65.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 65 unanimously. Are there any objections? Seeing none, Resolution 65 will stand approved. Up next, we have Resolution 66. Is there a motion to consider Resolution 66? Senator Cuesta.
I move to consider resolution 66.
It's been moved and seconded to consider Resolution 66. If the author will please come forward.
Whereas on February 27th, 2023, the Muslim Student Association and Black Student Union hosted a showing of Eyes Closed, the story of NBA player Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. Whereas this event hosted about 100 students and faculty who listened to the story of Mahmoud. Whereas Mahmoud's story consisted of his strength in not changing his core values or beliefs when others took a different stance. Whereas through Mahmoud's story and life experience, Kansas State students were able to be inspired and understand the value in staying true to their identities that they may hold. Whereas this event also helped combat misconceptions about Muslims and their beliefs. And whereas this event uplifted diversity and allowed other underrepresented groups to understand how their stories and experiences also carry importance at Kansas State University. Be it resolved that Section 1, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association commends the Muslim Student Association and Black Student Union on their collaboration. This event shows passion for a welcoming environment for many different groups to join and lead in harmony. which is truly something inspiring. Section 2, upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to Muslim Student Association President Elias Osman, Black Student Union President Christopher Burrell, Interim Associate Vice President of Diversity and Multicultural Student Affairs, Miater Chavez, Director of Intercultural Learning and Academic Success, Dr. Deborah Bolton, Director of Diversity and Multicultural Student Life, Kevin Santos Flores, Assistant Director of Student Engagement for Diversity and Multicultural Student Affairs, Dr. Graciela Berumen, Program Coordinator for Diversity and Multicultural Student Affairs, Dr. Brandon Clark, Program Administrator for Diversity and Multicultural Student Affairs, Adam Carr, Vice President of Student Life and Young Students, Dr. Thomas Lane, and University President, Dr. Richard Linton.
Awesome. Thanks, Manny. I caught the doctors on this one. So are there any further questions or corrections? Caucus Leader Bellamy.
117 at a comma between experience and Kansas.
Are there any further questions or corrections? Seeing none, thanks so much, Manny. You can take your seat. With that, is there a motion to approve Resolution 66 unanimously? Chair Thomas.
I move to approve resolution 66 unanimously.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 66 unanimously. Are there any objections?
One more correction. Sorry.
Chair Phillips.
On line 17. student capitalized.
Uncapitalized.
Yeah.
Were there any objections? Seeing none, Resolution 66 will stand approved. And with that, we'll go ahead and move into committee reports for the night. Are there any committee chairs that would like to give a report tonight? Chair Thomas.
Hello, as most of you know, I'm the Tuition Enhancements Committee Chair, and tonight the Student-Centered Tuition Enhancements Funding Resolution is in introduction. I just wanted to let everyone know to keep an eye out for that. The committee has worked on SCTE all semester, and we came to a consensus decision on that. So when it's an introduction later, feel free to ask any questions or shoot me a message with any questions that you might have about it.
Thanks, Kate. Are there any questions? Seeing none, you may take your seat. Are there any further committee chairs that would like to give a report tonight? Chair Phillips.
All right, good evening, everyone. A little bit different podium today. The mic's on the wrong side, so this is throwing me off. But on Monday, the Student Services Fee Committee met and we reviewed Adibus. I know that we've been doing this for the past couple of weeks, but we ultimately came to our decision on that issue. And the committee voted to not extend funding to Adibus. This was primarily due to some financial commitments that the committee does have in the future and some that we are expected to have in the future. So because of that, Adibus will not be receiving funding from the Student Services Fee Committee. However, that doesn't mean that the work on Adibus has to stop. One of the things that this body can do is absolutely work towards advocating with administration for whether it's better Adibus funding or a general emphasis on transportation. Kansas State University next year is entering our campus master planning. Nick, did I get that phrasing right? Campus master planning phase. And so within that, we're able to focus on things like campus transportation and different things like that. So I would strongly encourage you, if you have lots of good thoughts on Adibus, to really be active and engaged in those conversations and really try to make your voice heard to administration. I won't be here 2 meetings from now, but for those of you who will still be here, that's something that you all can work on and show the next term what we do here at SGA. So I'd strongly encourage some of that, but just wanted to give you an update on the committee and their decision.
Thanks, Blake. Are there any questions for Chair Phillips? Seeing none, you can take your seat. Are there any further committee chairs that would like to give a report tonight? Chair Long. Peyton. Oh, you're doing it.
This is everyone I could possibly think about. We have.
You're in my sent items folder.
Looks like a slide suggestion.
Hey, now you do it the small version,
We'll do
Bob.
it. Yeah, yeah.
That works just fine for me, I think, Peyton.
All right.
Nice. Here are your end of term SAC facts. So we have three different budgets. Great smarts for everybody. So SAC's budget is split into three different parts: campus orgs, sports clubs, and ACT. We allocate all of those. And then I thought it'd be good to put it up here to show how much those were utilized or could have been utilized. So around this time last year, I gave a similar report for travel allocations, and we had spent, I believe, $16,500 or so, which is about half of our budget. This year for Santa Fe Campus Work, we spent $53,000 of that. So we spent at a 98% utilization rate. Basically, we spent all of it was the best answer. So incredible growth in that area. Sports clubs, our budget is $65,470. We had a total request of about $300,000. So the sports clubs, they needed or wanted $300,000. We funded about a fifth of that. Or yeah. And for ACT, we had a $90,000 budget. We had just shy of $400,000 requested. So as you can see, sports clubs and ACT are very, very, very in demand at this point in time. And we obviously some of those things are a little bit high, but we could have easily spent another $100,000 on each of those. I'm sure the committee will attest to. So basically, these are all up by at least, let's see, Campus Works is more than doubled. Sports clubs is up by 100 grand. ACT is up by 120-ish grand, I believe. So the costs are getting higher and SAC is spending the money more.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Jacob. Are there any questions for Chair Long? Chair Phillips?
Was there a common theme as to why the request amounts were greater this year than in years past?
Lodging and transportation, they were just all higher percentage wise to the number pretty much.
Inflation will kill you. Are there any further questions? Senator Blood?
On the campus organizations one, what's the breakout of that budget between travel and on-campus?
60, that's our max. 60% travel and 38%, 38% on campus.
Are there any further questions?
I will add that the vast majority of those are travel because they're smaller. There are a total maybe 8 on campus, including one for 1/10 of the budget.
Are there any further questions? Senator Griffith?
Do you have any, how heavily was the committee affected by the substantial increase for ACT and sports club?
Decisions were harder and everyone got less money.
Are there any further questions? Seeing none, thank you, Jacob. You can take your seat. Are there any further committee chairs that would like to give a report tonight? Seeing none, are there any directors that would like to give a report tonight? Director Ugwebu.
Hello. Sorry. I think I blanked. Sorry, my name is Manny and I am the Multicultural Affairs Director. So over this semester and until today, which is the last day I'm actually sitting in this position, I have been working with Dr. Raina Johnson on figuring out where we are appropriating DEI funds university-wide, especially with how we fund our multicultural students and also their organizations. And so far, we are coming up with it's part of the strategic plan, and we are hoping that more people will give us some inputs on where to send those money. And currently, I sit as the president of, should I say, as the chair of a student advisory board, and I am working closely with her on figuring out where those money and funds go to. So if anyone has any ideas on where to put those money or how to create scholarships and funding for our multicultural students, please let me know. I will be here for another year, and I will also continue in my role as her chair for the student advisory board.
Thanks, Manny. Are there any questions for Director Ugwebu? Seeing none, you may take your seat. Are there any further directors that would like to give a report tonight? Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to talk a little bit about some final numbers. As far as the Emerging Leaders Program went this year, we had our final little get together here this evening right before new senator training. So that kind of wrapped up a lot of the duties that I have for that position. So just as far as some numbers go, over the course of the year, we had 23 unique individuals come to at least one Emerging Leaders Program meeting. I had 14 sworn in as phase 2 interns. And then out of those 14, 8 of them have now been elected to serve in a seat in their respective colleges for Student Senate. And then 3 of them that I know of who are pursuing positions in other branches. So as far as a return rate on people sworn into phase 2 versus people who are going to stay in SGA, it's looking like a 12 to 14 ratio there. So just as far as some numbers go for that, I wanted to share.
Thanks, Peyton. Are there any questions for Coordinator Lynn? Awesome. Are there any further directors that would like to give a report tonight? Director Cohn.
What's up? We just got back from DC today. We had our Big 12 on the Hill conference. So all the Big 12 schools were in attendance, as well as the new 4. So we got to spend a lot of time advocating alongside the other Big 12 institutions with mental health and affordability issues. We also had a couple other initiatives, K-statewide. But we met with our entire delegation. It was a really good trip. I'm sure there'll be other announcements and information about it. But if you guys have any questions about how it went, please feel free to let me know. I thought it was pretty productive. It was a fun trip. So that's all I got.
Are there any questions for Director Cohn? Seeing none, are there any further directors that would like to give a report tonight? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into College Caucus time. So since Juan is not here to break down what we're going to be doing in College Caucus time tonight, I'm just going to share a little bit about it. For those of you that have never been in Senate when we've done College Caucus time, you'll go off and sit in a little space in the Union with the rest of the members of your caucus and chat about something. Tonight, you're going to be talking about any or all progress that you made on those goals that you set up with your caucuses at the beginning of the year. People that aren't familiar with the goals, you can catch them up to speed if you don't mind. And then once you do that, you can send Juan an email with just a little report about what you did this year. And Peyton is creating breakout rooms, and I will send the Zoom link just on the main listserv. Someone from each caucus, please take a device and join the Zoom. Be back by 7:45, 3, 2, 1, go.
Engineering, CSI.
Do not go into the CSI.
Hearing none of them for legal purposes.
No one go into the CSI.
Wow, great.
I guess you. Know. Like, it's really just like how many years. So one of the things that I want. We like didn't only didn't have a bigger didn't have the cards last time. And so so I roll with
like
or three that's kind of like I talked to Zane, and Zane, I think like Zane and Tucker and like even if so like I think they're already kind of clued in on what was all happening really. And
Sure, sure, sure.
then I'd also say, thinking back to. I traveled Monday. I think she was included in something, yes. So yeah, so do you need more, see more about what? I'll say that, kind of the same thing that's been to, all, so.
There were very few people. I'm pretty sure there were 4 people who ran.
Yeah, no, you're sorry, I don't know why I thought that you would know them like,
Well,
past, yeah, yeah. So I'm sorry. Oh, cool, awesome, so, that's
Yeah, there's so many. How many people were 5? And they were
I
like,
never go to GSC, it's like, why don't I ever go, but that's.
what's the name of the person who? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, there's only 2 people.
Yeah, because I made an announcement back in like October about it, and we got.
Like, wait, so
and then we had some of them interested, everything, like, they had class or a library, weeks, like, so like, they could never. So, but yeah, like, what wants? Inner comments. And.
Yeah, you tell
Like,
me.
getting in the center.
Yeah.
I know, so I know, that, I don't wanna see, having some sort of like session during a GSC thing about that, to like get students involved. So, I mean, if you kick off the year, like, kind of like a class, like nobody wants to think, how big there's not there with like, well, you know, they just have this on the video, it's like, actually, no.
Oh,
However,
your longest is.
yeah. Yeah, so like, once you actually move into that.
It's not partly the education caucus, I'm an education operator.
That is, yeah.
So, if we do that, I think that's.
Yep.
In your caucus.
Not anymore.
We got
Not mine.
Yeah. Mine is.
Officially for this term?
Yeah.
I thought it wasn't gonna go into effect until.
So I guess with what we were.
Oh.
Are in the.
I don't know that. Why were you? For me. No.
No, she just got appointed as a college of education. Yeah.
I don't know. I guess so, yeah.
It's definitely. It's, I wouldn't say it's more, not used, but. Like there's some stuff that's still like, some stuff that's pretty relevant, like I started as a back in like 2010.
But, no, it's
from like 13 to. I'm always been working towards getting great though, so like, I mean, I've never taken a pause. Like,
Maybe have the greatest punishment.
I guess some part of my.
The engineering midday is you, yeah.
What? Just doing.
Not just the problem with them.
So I don't know
Yeah,
where.
my biggest thing is GSC, like talking to Zane and then talking to Tucker, those have been my biggest outlets of like outreach into things.
So now-
And then like, and then on occasion, like,
Just-
like.
Now
just
it's
one
on
part,
her own.
like, they know.
It's been supposed to be.
If anything, I can always like email her if I need things, but it's just one of those like, you don't want to play that card. So, stay
I was
on.
thinking of senator.
Yeah, mainly working, having a good relationship with GSC leadership.
Somebody knows.
So I'm interested to see who.
I missed your college. So I figured you would let me know.
Yeah.
You might just be like. Yeah, okay. You might be like log on to Zoom and just wait there.
Right, yeah. Which is, I mean,
But we've all been there. So it's
So true. One time in the English class. I took it
happening.
first semester freshman year,
Yeah.
and we were online and they made you
Yeah. Yeah.
And I fell asleep during class, camera on. They sent us to breakout room,
It's so great.
but I was asleep and could not enter my breakout room. And so it was just me, James, and Angie on the Zoom, and I woke up and I was like, shit, I saw what
You're
was
like, how
going
much
on.
you
The Zoom.
Oh my god. I overdropped the class, honestly.
I came to class,
Yeah.
like, some days we were able to have it in person. I came to class the next time.
That's pretty funny.
I know. And then when I was a blog leader,
Yeah.
that was what they would say. Every time.
When she fell asleep to her.
Yeah, they were like, well, Hayden fell asleep in the middle of our class, and we still made her squad leaders. Who's the one sitting there?
So,
Oh, it's so bad.
you're extra sleepy. You can blame me.
I was actually thinking it was when I was reading Starbucks,
However,
so
we did-
we just gotten off of work before that class.
So like you have to work.
So I was, you know, 5 hours into my day at that point. I didn't-
That kind of sucked, though. Just the worst class of all.
Not the worst basketball time, but most of
One
it,
thing about,
it was a little bit
yeah.
of my,
Almost as bad as poor teaching skills.
And the people in my class were fine, like the material was the biggest waste of time.
yeah,
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
kind of
well,
like,
good chat for us.
be nice to your
Yeah,
students.
yeah, I can chin that.
Yeah,
Putting everything into the.
yeah. Good advice.
Here's how to.
I did that great.
Be
Thanks, so helpful.
Feels like all undergrad, like, education classes are just teachers.
Yeah, they're like, hey, don't be racist to your kids.
Maybe ask them how they're
Let's do it
feeling
now.
every once in a while.
Yeah, and maybe ask them how they're doing. And that's it. And that'll take you 4 years to learn.
So I've taken like maybe 15 hours of education class at this point. I've not learned anything. I'm not a fan. It's just.
Nothing?
What?
Not even in Foundations of Ed? That was like my favorite class.
What?
We were just talking about how Foundations of Ed was just so much of like, be nice to your students. And like, yeah,
I had fun in Foundations.
I mean, I had fun,
Yeah.
but I didn't always feel like I was learning.
Okay.
It's fun, but it's academic foundations.
I felt really bad about it because I did not. But I did good grade. Gotcha.
I don't think anyone walks out of there with like less than 100.
It's basically impossible. If you turn everything in, there's no way.
Yeah.
That was my YouTube videos, all Foundations of Ed. Or my YouTube channel.
What did I do? I taught how to write calligraphy. We had to read articles and then teach about the articles. I think mine was about Asian American students. So how about that? And then I did keeping track. That was my book.
The carrots and sticks. This way.
Mine was teaching with the heart and mind. But I taught how to braid, and then we had to do a like content focused lesson. And at this point, I had known that I was going to switch to Vex Ed. But elementary lessons are so much easier. So I was
See,
like,
I feel like it's going to be really easy. Here's how to cook something, you know? We didn't do any content specific teaching when I was in it.
There's
I
gone.
just brought like Skittles. Here's how to add.
No, I found engineering.
It's gone.
Yeah, I can't find them anywhere in the building. They are not in the bowling alley meetings like they normally.
They are at the bill right now. They
I took 15 minutes, they took off sprinted.
They said caucus time at Yard Bar.
Like, left.
You should see a scooter page. You want to see a video?
Yes.
Come to me if you want to see a video.
Okay.
So we got drinks and then we rode scooters around the mall.
Isn't that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's.
Do you mind that?
Only 12.08.
Well, Evan. What do you mean?
Those are cool.
Do a trick.
You're a trick. I said, do you want me to bring a phone?
Did Parker do any tricks?
No, he had Marissa on the scooter with him and Marissa was holding the.
They didn't do any couples tricks.
There was some precious cargo on that scooter.
I would have liked to see a dirty dancing style of Marissa on the scooter.
Good, yeah. We went and got Mars at the Taqueria next door.
So did you stay in Crystal City?
No, we stayed by the sketchy Walmart on H Street. Oh, that Walmart is closing, what I've heard. Anyway.
strong there's a Walmart in like a big city.
It's like a Walmart, it's 2 floors and then it's got apartments on top of it. And the building we were staying in was like on top of the Walmart.
The weirdest thing to me was like Targets in Chicago. This is just like in a building that is like not just a Target building. It's like another building.
The Amazon.
It's so weird to me.
I want to go to one of those.
It's so weird.
I want to go to one. They have the industry. No identification, no wallet. They.
College of Engineering did not.
Yeah, they did. And
They were
they were like.
Oh, okay.
Tommy, like, I'm not-
Oh, because Tommy joined and then like immediately left. And I said, I guess Tatiana is not going to get
They
to
are
talk
not
to
gonna be back.
engineering.
2 minutes and a half. I'll give them 15 minutes of coffee.
Has it been 15 full minutes?
7:43, didn't I say?
It's been 12 minutes, she's number 5.
I didn't think it felt like it's been 15 minutes. I like to measure time based on it feel.
You mind, yeah.
We're starting without the rest of these bozos.
I said that every time.
I can do it. I contribute to students that
There is a, there's this place called.
Are you here?
I mean, Crystal Lake. Oh, I thought we were talking about Chicago. Well, Crystal Lake is a suburb of Chicago. So my friend and I are going to Crystal Lake. You probably well, I'm not interested.
Like that was.
Maybe. Also.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right, thank you, everybody. Just as a reminder, caucus leaders, please go ahead and send just a little year-end report over to Juan. With that, we'll go ahead and move into approval of the allocations. So up first for approval, we have Bill 96, the fiscal year 2023 student allocation to Alpha Phi Alpha. They requested 590 and were recommended 500 for travel to the Midwest Regional Conference. Bill 97, the fiscal year 2023 student allocation to Chem E-Car. What, can someone tell me how to say it again? AKE, something like that? AKE, there we go, thank you. The AKE Mid-America Regional Chem E-Car Competition. They requested 800 and were recommended 500. Bill 98, the fiscal year 2023 student allocation to Engineering and Medicine and Biology Society. They requested 700 and were recommended 700 for the Design of Medical Devices Conference. Bill 99, the fiscal year 2023 student allocation to Engineers Without Borders KSU chapter. They requested 800 and were recommended 800 for travel to the regional conference, not the regional conference. And Bill 100, the fiscal year 2023 student allocation to International Coordinating Council. They requested 400 and were recommended 265 for International Week 2023 Parade. And Bill 101, the fiscal year 2023 student allocation to Kappa Delta Chi Sorority, Inc. They requested 1,000 and were recommended 1,000 for the Central Regional Conference. And Bill 102, the fiscal year 2023 student allocation to Pre-Dental Club. They requested 1,000 and were recommended 1,000 for the Kansas Mission of Mercy. Bill 103, the fiscal year 2023 student allocation to Sexuality and Gender Alliance. They requested 1,000 and were recommended 700 for the Transforming Gender Conference. Bill 104, the fiscal year 2023 student allocation to Engineering Student Council. Oh, I'm moving into introduction. Is there a motion to approve the allocations? Senator Cuesta.
I move to approve the.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the allocations. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the allocations will stand approved. And with that, is there a motion to consider the allocations? Chair Long.
Consider the allocation.
Sorry. It's been moved and seconded to consider the allocation. So up first, we have Bill 104. This is the fiscal year 2023 student allocation to the Engineering Student Council. They requested 400 and recommended 100 for the National Association of Engineering Student Councils National Conference. And Bill 105, the fiscal year 2023 student allocation to Omega Delta Phi Fraternity, Inc. They requested 1,000 and were recommended 760 for the Omega Delta Phi Pig Roast Spring 2023. Are there any questions or corrections for the allocations? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into introduction of legislation. First up tonight, we have Bill 106. Is there a motion to consider Bill 106? Senator Cuesta.
Move to consider Bill 106.
It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 106. If the author will please come forward.
Bill 22-23-106. Amendment to the KSU SGA bylaws regarding the creation of the Outreach and Awareness Committee. Authors Jolene Griffiths. Whereas the Kansas State University Student Governing Association, KSU SGA, should continue to revise its governing documents. Whereas the general student body's involvement and understanding of the operations of KSU SGA has decreased exponentially since the 2019-2020 legislative season. Whereas participation in KSU SGA elections has also decreased since the 2019-2020 legislative session. Whereas in the 2020 SGA general elections, the number of votes for student body president was 3,530, and the number of voters in the College of Arts and Sciences was 874. Whereas the number of voters for the same positions in the 2023 KSU SGA general election were 1,294 and 244 respectively. Whereas the number of students voting for those positions in the most recent election is nearly 1/3 of the number of the 2022 KSU SGA general election. Whereas the duties of KSU SGA have not been decreased despite lower engagement. Whereas it is near impossible to find information regarding KSU SGA outside of the organization itself. Whereas the presence of KSU SGA at activity fairs and new student orientation events has been slim to non-existent. Whereas the healthy intake of new members through the Emerging Leaders Program is necessary for the organization's continued relevancy. Whereas KSU SGA has in the past created new legislative committees to deal with new challenges that face KSU SGA. And whereas the creation of a new standing committee specifically to deal with outreach to the general student body and raising awareness of KSU SGA by way of tabling, speaking at events, advertising, revising governing documents, crafting legislation, and actively recruiting new members would assuredly help in keeping KSU SGA running in tip-top shape. Being enacted that Section 1, Article 4, Section 6A of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association bylaws be amended to read as follows. Article 4, Legislative. Section 6, Succession. In the event of a temporary absence or inability of the Speaker of the Student Senate, the line of a succession shall be one Speaker pro tempore, and then goes all the way down to 9, where it says Outreach and Awareness Standing Committee Chair. Section 2, Article 4, Section 11 of the KSU SGA bylaws will be amended to read as follows. L. The Outreach and Awareness Standing Committee is charged with increasing knowledge, participation, and awareness of KSU SGA within the general student body. It shall also be charged with operating KSU SGA activities at new student orientation events and tabling at activity fairs. 1. The Outreach and Awareness Standing Committee shall consist of a minimum of 15 voting members and the chair. It shall vote only to break a tie. A quorum of the committee shall be a majority of the committee members then selected and qualified, not including the chair. 2. Membership. The Outreach and Awareness Standing Committee Chair appointed by the Speaker of the Student Senate in consultation with the Speaker pro tempore of the Student Senate, who shall chair the committee. The appointment shall be subject to approval of the Student Senate. B. At least 7 student senators appointed by the Speaker of the Student Senate in consultation with the chair. C. At least 2 at-large students appointed by the chair in consultation with the Speaker of the Student Senate, who shall have voting privileges on the committee. D. Of the voting members, the committee shall elect a vice chair of the Outreach and Awareness Standing Committee. This appointment is subject to approval of the chair. The vice chair shall chair meetings of the Outreach and Awareness Committee in the absence of the chair and shall be responsible for taking the minutes of the committee. E. One member of the executive branch whose position pertains to issues relating to the committee shall be appointed to serve as a voting member by the student body president and chief of staff in consultation with the chair. F. The KSU SGA Student Senate parliamentarian shall serve as a voting member of the committee. G. The interim coordinators, SGA Communications Director, and SGA Elections Commissioner shall all serve as voting members of the committee. H. One representative from the Union Governing Board will serve as a voting member of the committee. 3. This committee shall A. Craft legislation regarding the engagement of the general student body within KSU SGA and the operations of KSU SGA towards the general student body. B. Perform outreach to university-wide clubs and organizations regarding the powers and duties of KSU SGA. C. Table at events related to new student orientation and any activity fairs that occur on behalf of KSU SGA. D. Review and revise the KSU SGA Constitution, bylaws, and statutes surrounding recruitment of new members of KSU SGA. E. Assist the interim coordinators with any of their duties that they request assistance in. F. Assist the KSU SGA election committee on reviewing and revising the KSU SGA election laws to better inform voters and increase involvement in said elections. G. Advertise on behalf of KSU SGA within online spaces and in physical media. Section C. This legislation shall take effect at the start of the 2023-2024 legislative session after passage by the Student Senate and signature of the student body president.
Thanks, Jolene. Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Senator Kappelman.
Did you ask any other senators or anyone else while creating this legislation?
Not in the active creation process, because it was kind of a spur of the moment thing where this is a problem that needs to be solved. And so I just basically barfed out a bunch of words on a page, edited it like this. But although I did ask interim coordinator Pat Aiden and interim senator Suncheck for feedback.
Chair Long.
You discussed how you came to decision on the membership of this committee.
Huh?
You discussed how you came to decisions on the membership of the committee. The number of senators and the other positions.
Oh, yeah. The number is so high just because of the actual number of voting members on the committee. I decided on 7 student senators because 7 or 6 is generally accepted in, at least on the constitution that was available on Org Central. Central, at least 2 at-large students also seems to be the standard. And then I picked 1 member of the executive branch so that the student body president can basically have a window into how's recruitment going, what's actually happening in it, and almost all of the committees seem to have at least 1 member of the executive branch. I selected the parliamentarian because their duties involve things like running meetings and operating the social media pages. So it seems like they would be an important part of active recruitment. The interim coordinator, communications director, and elections commissioner were all selected because the interim coordinator, the emerging leaders coordinator now, I just forgot to change that. The emerging leaders coordinator was selected because it's their job to lead the emerging leaders program. And so it would make sense that for this, it's the largest way of getting people into the organization. So having a window into that is very useful, which is also why one of the duties is assisting them. The communications director is the communications director, so that was a fairly obvious decision. And then the elections commissioner, because one of the things pertained is changing election laws. And so having the election commissioner on that board while you're discussing election laws is reasonable, in my opinion. And then I selected the union governor, and then also 1 member from the union governing board, because almost every K-State student is involved within the union. So it seemed like a correct decision.
Senator Questa.
Could you walk through what a normal mini meeting would look like?
Okay, so essentially the idea would be that would be.
Yeah, I'm not going to allow that question. That is a hypothetical. Senator O'Malley.
Have you asked anyone on the union governing board if they would be interested in serving on the committee?
I was unable to find their contact information, and I meant to contact Peyton about it because I know she's on the board. But at that point, it was getting like right up to the submission date, and there would not have been enough time. And I felt like this was an important enough issue that needed to go straight out. And then if anything did come up, can be edited as the actual term goes on, as it goes through the ebb and flow of actually running the meetings.
Senator Kamen.
Given our current Senate involvement and enrollment of senators, and the fact that many of our committees also are actively struggling to fill their spots.
Senator Kamen, this is kind of debate like.
Oh, and I was just curious, what do you think that this, what do you think the draw of this committee will be like to bring in, fill the spots? I was just curious, how the planning to fill it.
I mean, if anyone feels essentially called to help out with this organization, it would make the most sense that you would bring people who have skills in recruitment or are maybe serving as an RA so that they can talk with the new freshmen on their floors. Or maybe you're the head of a club who's wanting to recruit people. And so while you're recruiting for clubs, oh, hey, I'm also part of KSU SGA. Here's this elevator pitch while I'm elevator pitching this club.
Thank you.
Chair Phillips.
Yeah, a number of years ago, a committee that's similar to what's being presented up here called the Student Engagement Committee was around. And in part, that committee turned into the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. What does this legislation address that action did not? If that makes sense. Or how is this different than the actions that were put into the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee from that committee?
Well, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, having read all of their duties and seen the presentations that Chair Pondillo has presented to the Senate, it's made it seem like they're essentially laser focused on specifics on promoting minority and essentially more focused on the specific club, on civic clubs and organizations. And so also having to basically shove upon them this whole idea of, oh yeah, you also need to deal with the entire student body in general seems like a bit much. And so having a committee who can specifically deal with that general and a committee that can deal with the more specifics of it seems like a fair trade-off. More balance, I guess.
No. Chair Saya?
What is the most significant barrier between students and our organization?
Speaking of the freshmen who only learned about it because I just so happened to talk with Tommy on the way back from the pancake feed, it is learning about KSU SGA. There were, in the entire week of welcome, I saw no tables, no posters, got no emails, apart from the invitation to the intern program, specifically because I had a conversation with Tommy about his operations within KSU SGA. That is the only way I found out about it. I know that other members of the intern program only did it because their RA is a member of it. I mean, had I not been in the honors house, it's quite possible that I would have never learned about it. And seems like the number one recruitment method is having a relationship.
Time for questions is expired. Senator Blood.
Move to extend, time for questions by 5 minutes.
I second.
Any objections? Okay, we'll take a hand vote. All those in favor of a 5-minute extension, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. We have 5 more minutes. Senator Cuesta.
Is part of the function of this committee recruiting candidates?
I would assume that would be a natural progression of it. You'll be working with the elections commissioner, so elections would always be on the forefront of your discussions. I also believe that election laws need a big reform, but that's like far in the distance. Also, hence why I put it in their duties. And so bringing in more members into, say, the Emerging Leaders Program would in fact increase the number of people who are running in positions. It would keep elections competitive, which means that people are going to have to put more thought into actually representing the colleges that they are running in. And hopefully we might get a vet med senator.
Senator O'Malley.
I know, I found out about the intern program because I saw Peyton at a table for 2 weeks. If I could ask a question to Peyton, do you know how many times we table? Like how often that happens? Because it was at least one.
I can answer that question. Peyton and I tabled at the activity carnival, which was Wednesday of the week of welcome, Thursday of the week of welcome. Thursday. Thank you, B. And I tabled at the Cat Tracks kickoff event that took place on the basketball court outside Kramer Dining Center, which was
The following Tuesday.
the following Tuesday. So at least twice at the beginning of the semester. Last semester, Peyton and I were also at the activities carnival at the beginning of this semester for winter week of welcome. We also sent notifications in the K-State today.
And the health and well-being their thing.
Yes.
That's where I met Jack. All in all, roughly 20 hours worth of recruitment / tabling events in the first 2 of this semester, of the fall semester.
Any further questions? Chair Talbert.
Yeah, could you elaborate a little bit on like what the difference is of the election revisions and laws this committee would make compared to Senate operations?
Probably relating to things like where you're allowed to put your posters on, because that's inherently much more related to engagement, at least in my opinion, compared to the actual physical running of the elections. But as I am not currently the chair of the Senate Operations Committee, I do not feel confident enough to answer that question.
Caucus Leader Compton.
Another election question. Do you have any idea of the scope of matters that the election committee does that this committee would like people to really assist with? I just wonder how much of it they would really be able to provide help with that would be kind of violating why they're there.
Could you elaborate?
Oh, I mean, like, well, some stuff obviously the election committee works on, this committee would probably not be able to work on just because they were like this and not the elections committee. I was just wondering if you had any idea of like the scope of that potentially.
I don't feel confident in answering that as I was running for election and not an active member in the elections committee.
Senator Heatherman.
Are you aware of the ability to charter, legislatively charter special committees?
Yes, I was made aware of that in my communications with Peyton. And I do think that it is a definite possibility, but I also think that a standing committee, Eddie, would allow us to continuously enroll and just continuously bringing new, fresh bodies, basically, to keep the organization running. But a standing committee, Eddie, if this does fail, I would not be opposed to in the slightest, as especially considering the record low turnout of this past year. It's a definite problem that perhaps a standing committee won't be able to solve, but a special committee, much more laser focused on new student orientation recruitment, could probably do.
Senator Blood.
Did you determine how many senators are required to serve on other standing committees when determining the number of senators to serve on this standing committee? And would there be enough available if we had 100% attendance and engagement?
So there would be 7 standing committees, and then no, if I did, I don't remember. I probably should have put it in, but I forgot.
Time for questions.
Okay, thanks, Jolene. You can take your seat. Senator Blood.
I have a few corrections.
Okay, I caught a couple. So I well, let me start at the beginning. The alignment is messed up on L. I'll fix that. The T is capitalized in 2 on line 92. The P was not capitalized in parliamentarian on line 108. Line 111 has intern coordinator instead of emerging leaders, and the alignment was funky on lines 133 and 134. What else did you get, Brian?
Throughout this, there's at least one instance where general student body is not capitalized and it is fully capitalized in 2 other instances. I can send you the specific line item. And I forget what's consistent throughout.
I'll check and confirm. Do you have any other corrections, Brian?
Negative.
Are there any further corrections? Caucus Leader Kidd.
There's just a question of privilege. Do we normally refer to it as like 2023/2024? Or do we normally use like a hyphen?
Oh, that's an excellent question. It would be a hyphen. Thank you. Any further corrections? Okie dokie. Is there a motion to consider Bill 107? Senator Griffith.
I move to consider Bill 107. Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 107. If the author will please come forward.
All right, so this is Bill 2223-107, amendments to the KSU SGA bylaws regarding the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee name. Authors me, whereas, forgot to put sponsors. I guess there's nobody. Okay, anyway, whereas the university president recently created the position of Vice President for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging, whereas with this position created at the university level, Kansas State University Student Governing Association should become unified, adding the word belonging to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion DEI Standing Committee name. Whereas adding the word belonging to the DEI committee acknowledges that there's need and acceptance for students of all backgrounds to feel welcome and embraced, not only in the KSU SGA body, but also university-wide. And whereas this name change will occur in every instance that DEI is mentioned in the KSU SGA bylaws. Be enacted that Section 1, Article IV, Section 6A and 6I of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association bylaws shall be amended to read as follows. So every instance that it is changed. So for example, on line 36 or no, 38, it's changing by frequent changes. You can see. Oh, in section 2, so sorry. This legislation shall take effect upon passage by the Senate and signature of the student body president.
Thanks, Joseph. Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Chair Phillips.
Line 74, there's a red hyphen.
Yeah, there is. I'll get rid of that one.
Sorry.
It's okay.
No,
It's okay.
thank you, Blake.
For it.
Are there any further questions or corrections for the author? Senator Glasscock.
Was there conversation within the DEI committee on the same change?
There was, it was kind of in agreement, no one disagreed, so we just kind of kept it pushing. But I also did reach out to exec because there's a faculty senate DEI committee and their name is JEDI. It's an acronym. I think we're all in favor of just DEIB.
JEDI, for anyone curious, is Justice, Equity, Diversity, Access, Inclusion, and Identity.
Yes.
Any further questions? Caucus Leader Kidd.
So I understand not necessarily wanting to send a copy of this to our new vice president for diversity, equity, and belonging. However, what will be like the notification to that person to know that it's changed? Or like, what will that communication be like?
I will be meeting with this person frequently, so.
Thank you.
Any further questions or corrections? Okay, seeing none. Thanks, Joseph. With that, is there a motion to consider Bill 108? Senator Questa.
I move to consider Bill 108.
Second.
RJ, what are you pointing at?
I did, yeah.
Senator Blood?
I move to consider Bill 1.
Senator Questa, do you withdraw your motion to consider Bill 108?
Sure.
Is there a second on Brian's motion to consider Bill 111? So Joseph can talk about both of his bills back to back. It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 111. Are there any objections? Seeing none. I don't know why I called for objections. Joseph.
Cough. Cough, cough.
Vice Chair Hoffman,
I move to allow the author to summarize.
Second.
any objections? You can summarize.
Thank you so much. I'm being courteous of your guys' time. Let's get this cooking. So this is exactly the same thing, but in the statutes. No, in the Constitution, because I don't occur in the Constitution. DEI doesn't occur in the Constitution. So yeah.
Any questions or corrections on Bill 111? Caucus Leader Kidd.
Sorry, so in the last document that was presented, I commented on updating intern coordinator to the emerging leaders coordinator. I just want to make sure that that's updated in this as well.
Yes.
If it's mentioned in the latter.
Yes, we will do that. Any further questions or corrections? Seeing none, thank you, Joseph. You can take your seat. And with that, is there a motion to consider Bill 108, Senator Questa?
Yes, I move to consider Bill 108.
It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 108. Author will please come forward. Oh. I'm over, I guess.
Okay, Bill 22-23-108, amendments to the KSU SGA bylaws regarding the SGA Emerging Leaders Program. Whereas the Kansas State University Student Governing Association should continue to update its governing documents to reflect the current state of the organization. Whereas the KSU SGA Emerging Leaders Program serves to recruit new members to the organization and allow for ease of entry into the organization. Whereas the KSU SGA bylaws state that the first class of phase 2 mentees shall not consist of less than 20 students or more than 35. Whereas KSU SGA should strive not to limit student engagement or employ arbitrary attendance parameters. Whereas the KSU SGA mentee selection panel is not necessary if there is no cap on the number of students admitted to phase 2 of the Emerging Leaders Program. Whereas class 2 of the Emerging Leaders Program has historically been the least attended set of sessions, whereas the administration of 2 classes during the fall semester should be up to the discretion of the Emerging Leaders coordinators based on student interest in the program, and whereas student involvement in the KSU SGA Emerging Leaders Program will vary year to year, and a review of engagement and attendance should be the responsibility of the Emerging Leaders coordinators. Be it enacted that Section 1, Article 6 of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association bylaws be amended to read as follows. And then in section, line 2, add phase 1 shall be defined as the set of up to 3 consecutive classes that include 5 total sessions. And then moving on to line 68, where it says that the phase 2 of the SGA Emerging Leaders Program shall require an application and selection process administered by the Emerging Leaders coordinators rather than the SGA mentee selection panel. And then adding a section on line 74, saying completion of phase 1 shall be defined as attendance at 3 or more regularly scheduled phase 1 sessions or comparable supplemental programming at the discretion of the emerging leaders coordinators. And then striking all of section 4 and 5 and E. And then in line 165, striking in conjunction with the members of the SGA mentee selection panel. And then in line 144, the emerging leaders coordinator shall provide the Office of Recruitment and Admission with their contact information as opposed to new student services. Section 2, this legislation shall take effect upon passage by the student senate and signature of the student body president.
Thanks, Peyton. Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Chair Phillips.
On line 62, that up to 2 5-week classes during the fall semester, 1 5-week class in the spring semester. Is the intention to definitely have that spring semester class, or is that part of the up to?
No, the intention is to definitely have 1 fall semester and 1 spring semester class, but take out the requirement to have 2 fall semester classes. So you could have 1 or 2.
Any further questions or corrections? Senator Blood.
Why do you feel that we should legislate that we should have at least 20 students in the SGA emerging leader program?
I think that a lot of this has to do with the fact that like the interest in the organization is going to ebb and flow pretty inconsistently year over year. And so that 20 number seemed kind of like an arbitrary cutoff for me. I know how much work I personally put into recruitment, and I was never anywhere close to having 20 regularly attending interns. That was a completely like unreasonable goal for me, I think. And it just wasn't like where the interest was. So I think it's more pertinent to focus on the number of students that we can get and then giving them the best experience possible.
Are there any further questions or corrections? Okay, seeing none, thanks, Peyton. You can take your seat. And with that, is there a motion to consider Bill 109? Chair Saya?
I move to consider Bill 109.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 109. If the author will please come forward. Chair Thomas?
Motion to allow the author to summarize.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to allow the author to summarize. Any objections? Senator Blood?
Object.
Okay, we'll take a hand vote. All those in favor of allowing the author to summarize, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. All opposed, same sign. The motion carries. You may summarize.
Thank you. All right, this is a year's worth of little changes that I observed while running the Strategic Oversight Committee. Thanks to advice from Senator Heatherman last week, I took a bunch of responsibilities that I thought were important and cut them out. So this is a little trimmed down version. I think it really represents the role that the committee has taken. And this is important. We've done a little bit of self-discovery. I'm excited for the vision this committee can take. That's all. If you have specific questions, I can.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Okay, seeing none, thanks, Nick. You can take your seat. With that, is there a motion to consider Bill 110? Senator Griffith.
I move to consider Bill 110.
It's moved and seconded to consider Bill 110. The author will please come forward. I will come forward because Natalie is not here. Okie dokie, folks. Is there a motion to summarize? Bryce?
I give a motion to summarize.
Chair Thomas.
I move to allow the author to summarize.
Oh, are there any objections? You object?
I object.
Sweet, okay, all right. We'll now move into a hand vote. All of those in favor of objecting.
All those in favor of allowing the author to
Okay,
summarize,
all
please raise
those
your
in favor
placards
of
now.
allowing the author
Proxies
to
raised 2. All opposed, same sign. The motion carries. I'm going to summarize. Okay, this is an amendment to the election regulations code. Natalie just had some observations about some things that went on in this year's elections and the campaigns and everything. And this was just one of the recommendations that she had to bring some updates to the elections regulations code. So if you look on lines 78 through 83, or excuse me, 84, I just add some language about distribution of items of monetary value, basically saying that like anything that you could conceivably like trade in for currency, like cash, Bitcoin, a Venmo, a gift card, anything like that, can't be distributed at a value of greater than $10 for candidates, for each candidate for union governing board, the Board of Student Publications, Student Senate, or College Council, and $30 for candidates for student body president and student body vice president. The keen-eyed among you will notice that those are the donation limits. We felt that was just a fair number to set that at, since that's the largest amount that a candidate can accept. That should be the largest amount that a candidate is allowed to redistribute. I will take questions and corrections.
Do you find that the distribution of items of monetary value during elections constitutes bribery?
I will not speak to that.
When you say distribution of items of monetary value, what is this limit on can be easily sold? Is it like?
Well, it specifies currency distributed via raffle, giveaway, or any other items. This includes, but is not limited to cash, checks, electronic transfers of funds, and gift cards. But I don't know if you had like a baseball card that was worth a bunch of money. Like campaigns give away t-shirts, pins, stickers, water bottles. Give me another example. What's something else that's gotten given out? Cookies, donuts. That is not something that you could reasonably like sell and make a lot of money off of. But like a $10 Visa gift card is something that you could give, that you could get $10 out of someone for. Granted, your follow-up is granted.
Has this been an actual problem in elections, either in this term or previous term, significant enough to actually write an amendment about it?
I don't know how you measure significance, but it has happened. I would not like it to happen anymore, and I would consider that significant enough. Any further questions or corrections? Carson.
When writing the legislation, did you consider making a limit for dollars instead of value of greater than 10?
Well, if the limit was $0, there would be no limit.
Well, I can follow up.
Yes.
Do you think that there should be no like things grappled by candidates to?
I don't necessarily think that it would be fair to limit any raffling of any items, because campaigns do give away like campaign merch, t-shirts, stuff like that. And there might be people that want that, but like aren't able to make a donation. There's a lot of reasons that people would want to be able to get involved with the campaign, because speaking from my experience working on campaigns, the typical practice is you make a donation to the student body presidential campaign and get a t-shirt in return for your donation. Or maybe it's like a bundle where they do like $20 for a t-shirt or $25 for a t-shirt, a sticker, and a button or something like that. And not necessarily every student can afford to make that kind of donation. So they should still be allowed to get that kind of benefit that students can't afford to make the donation get by being able to enter into a raffle. Any further questions? Will?
Do you care to share an example?
I do not. Due to an ongoing elections commission case. Senator Griffith.
What is the thing that you previously described in which someone donates in order to receive a thing? Wouldn't that count as just simply purchasing the item?
No. Granted.
Why?
Because we never have considered it that. Don't ask me why. Brian or Will?
Wait, can I explain it?
Yes.
Okay, 20 minutes commission. So if you donate to like an actual political campaign, in return, that's why you do not pay sales tax.
There you go. Thank you, Will. Any further questions? Thank you. Okay, we already did Bill 111. Go ahead and do Bill, my gosh, 112. Is there a motion to consider Bill 112? Senator Griffith.
I mean, consider Bill 112.
It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 112. If the author will please come forward.
Okay. All right, creation of the advisory committee for student wellbeing resources, authors, moi. Whereas Kansas State University believes that it should provide every student with the best educational experience possible. Whereas today faculty members at KSU have the option to take an annual mental health resource training course. Whereas a number of organizations associated within Kansas State University practice mandatory mental health resource training programs to help raise awareness for a variety of different services on campus. Whereas lacking a greater understanding of to respond. That's might need just a little error. Take note.
Where?
To depression.
Sorry, where?
Line 16 of to respond.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, to depression and other mental health issues impose a serious risk to the well-being of the student body. Whereas Kansas State University Student Governing Association has a responsibility to equally care for the mental and physical well-being of students living both on and off campus. Whereas students struggling with mental health issues deserve the undivided attention and care these resources provide. Whereas KSU SGA's mental health resource plan identified that all students at Kansas State University should have awareness of mental health challenges and knowledge of the resources that can address them. Whereas the Morrison Family Center for Student Wellbeing is developing a mental health resources toolkit to aid faculty and staff in connecting students with resources and support. And whereas this toolkit would benefit from regular student feedback over the course of its finalization, be it enacted that Section 1, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association shall create an advisory committee for the creation of the Morrison Family Center for Student Wellbeing and Mental Health Resources Toolkit. Section 2, the following individual shall be appointed to serve as the chair of the Advisory Committee for Student Wellbeing Resources, Ethan Pilcher. Section 3, the chair shall, in consultation with the student body president, appoint a vice chairperson and 4 students to serve as members of the committee. Where Section 4, the committee shall meet on an as-need basis at the discretion of the chair until the Morrison Family Center for Student Wellbeing Mental Health Resources Toolkit has been launched, after which the committee will be dissolved. Section 5, while the committee remains active, the chair shall provide a report to the Student Senate once per semester on progress made regarding the Mental Health Resources Toolkit. And Section 6, this legislation, after passed by the Student Senate and signature of the student body president, shall take effect at the beginning of the 2023-2024 term.
Thanks, Ethan. Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Senator Questa?
926 ASU.
Yes, I caught that one. Any further questions or corrections? Chair Tolbert?
Yeah, I was wondering, have you talked with like the current well-being director and like what are those conversations?
Yeah, I've talked, Chris Bowman. We've gone into extensive detail on kind of the current situation that's been going on in campus in terms of resource outreach. Could be better. So that's the priority right here. That's basically the purpose of establishing this committee. It's also to kind of just work forward and execute a lot of kind of just overall initiatives and like program and idea sourcing and creation that has been brought about by the mental health resources plan, and we'll kind of just move forward with that and coordinate with the director from the executive branch and kind of just come to overall consensus and figure something out.
Chair Phillips?
Yeah, what does this committee do that the Student Health Advisory Committee couldn't do?
Great that you ask. This committee is largely more specific. Its sole purpose is for the creation and kind of building of a toolkit, and by extension promoting that for student use. Whereas SHAC, largely speaking, is more directed to like the advisory of student well-being, like in health resources overall. And this is just a more directed goal towards the creation of an item that will be out for launch when we get it completed. Right now, it's very close to completion. A trial run is being done with faculty. Once consultation and feedback has came back from that, there's going to just, which is very soon, mind you, will take into effect and launch something for kind of like an overall full version that will be accessible to students.
Any further questions or corrections? Caucus Leader Kidd,
Well, it was just for Pam. She's had her hand up.
Coordinator Lynn,
Would it be a friendly amendment to add some language about this being a product of the plan from the oversight
Yeah, certainly.
committee?
I'll let the committee add that in committee. Senator, oh no, Caucus Leader Kidd.
Sorry, I just thought of this. So for line 53, does committee in this case need to be capitalized?
Lowercase, I think,
Yeah, I'd say lower.
and 51. I'll fix all of those, and 49, I'll fix them.
Thank you.
Senator Blood,
Yeah, so for section 2, was the chair of this potential committee sufficiently advertised to allow for other potential candidates to apply for the position?
So the main reasoning as to why this particular candidate was the one chosen was on the basis that this was the sole candidate who had been working on the plan currently within the body of SOC. So largely like if others are welcome to kind of take up the mantle and position if like this goes on for an extended period of time in another year, then certainly there could be the opportunity for another chairperson to step up.
Chair Saya.
Point of information to Coordinator Lynn, the whereas clause starting on line 26 does reference our committee's plan.
Can we, the amendment was to add something specifically saying, oversight. It doesn't say oversight committee anywhere, which is what I was looking for.
That language can be added.
Senator Blood.
So to clarify, there has been no advertisement to other students to know about the position to chair this.
Again, the advertisement has largely been not so much needed as this kind of was a more driven specific goal. It's more of a steering committee in terms of the promotion of it in the future in terms of membership that will be available to all people. And again, as I have mentioned previously, if this were to go on for an extended period of time, then yeah.
Thanks, Ethan. You can take your seat. With that, we'll go ahead and move into introduction on Bill 113, if there is a motion to consider Bill 113. Chair Long.
I move to Bill 113.
It's moved and seconded to consider Bill 113. If the author will please come forward.
All right, Bill 2223-113, decrease of the Student Governing Association Student Services Fee Agreement. Author, me, sponsors, Student Services Fee Committee. Whereas the Student Services Fee Committee reviewed the request of Student Governing Association during the scheduled 3-year review cycle. Whereas the Student Governing Association is responsible for representing the students of Kansas State University, reviewing requests for tuition and fees, allocating funding to student organizations, and numerous other tasks. Whereas the Student Services Fee allocations to Student Governing Association supports compensation to officers as deemed by the Joint Committee on Officers' Compensation, programmatic functions of each branch, member travel, the Emerging Leaders Program, annual elections, internal audit, and promotions. Whereas the Joint Committee on Officers' Compensation studied, evaluated, and communicated levels of compensation for student officers of the Student Governing Association, recommending $55,133.38 for fiscal year 2024, $56,042.55 for fiscal year 2025, and $56,969.90 for fiscal year 2026. And their report was accepted by the Student Senate for this contract. Whereas the Student Services Fee Committee is committed to ensuring the financial well-being of the Student Services Fee. Whereas in order to ensure the financial well-being of the Student Services Fee, decreases are necessary during this review cycle. Whereas Student Governing Association presented on the impacts of 1%, 3%, and 5% decreases to their budget. Whereas the Student Services Fee Committee deemed that a 3% decrease to Student Governing Association's budget would not significantly impact the ability of Student Governing Association to represent students and perform their functions. And whereas the Student Services Fee Committee voted 10-0 to recommend the following Student Services Fee Agreement to Student Senate. Being enacted that, section 1, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association approves the following student services fee budget agreement. The student services fee budget agreement shall be included in and or replace the appropriate chapter in the KSU SGA statute. So you can see that down below. The things that I'll note here, for fiscal year 2024, it'll be $85,687. For fiscal year 2025, $87,400. And for fiscal year 2026, $89,148. And then the only other thing that's different from our normal student services fee contracts is that third section about internal audit. We'll be giving internal audit $18,000 per year to continue their auditing services. They do about 1,000 hours of work per year for that for our various entities. And they're conducted on a 3-year review cycle, just like our normal student services fee reviews. And section 2, Bill 22-23-113 becomes effective upon passage or upon execution of this agreement by the Student Services Fee Committee Chair, the Speaker of the Student Senate, the Student Body President, the Speaker Pro Tempore of the Student Senate, the Vice President for Administration and Finance, and the Vice President for Student Life.
Are there any further questions or, whoa. Sorry, I zoned out there for a second. Thanks, Blake. Are there any questions or corrections for Chair Phillips? Caucus Leader Kidd.
Sorry, for line 17 through line 120, is there a reason why we're not referencing like names like Ethan for VP for Administration and Finance and like Dr. Lane for VP of Student Life?
That's just not something that we've done in the past. My guess as to why we don't is since they're stored in the statutes, it just refers, I don't know, instead of referring to people, it just keeps the position so that if they change, it's easier to contact, is my guess.
Really cool, sorry.
Appreciate it.
I don't know, Ethan could get fired between now and when we sign this.
Hope not.
He could. Anything could happen.
I was on the committee that selected him, so that'd be a very poor reflection.
Are there any further questions or corrections for Chair Phillips? Okay, seeing none, thanks, Blake. You can take your seat. And with that, is there a motion to consider Bill 114? Vice Chair Hoffman.
I move to consider Bill 114.
All right, Bill 114, the FY24 allocation of academic competition team funds. Authors myself sponsored the SAC committee. Whereas the Student Allocations Committee received and reviewed the budget requests of the academic competition teams below. Whereas all registered organizations were given ample opportunity and notification of their ability to submit funding requests. Whereas 32 of the possible 32 requesting clubs either presented budget proposals to the Student Allocations Committee or submitted video requests. Whereas a total of $399,053.73 was requested by organizations, equaling 444% of the total amount available to allocate. Whereas Kansas State University Student Governing Association KSU-SGA statute 20.03182 enumerates the academic competition teams. 21. I left sports kids in there. Shall have it be registered organization designated by the Student Allocation Committee Chair as having a vested interest in attending competitions at which such teams represent the university and its colleges. Whereas chapter 47 of the KSU-SGA statute stipulates that 90,000 shall be dispersed to academic competition teams on a yearly basis. Whereas all funds must be used per funding guidelines to have been allocated accordingly. And whereas the funds requested by these groups and funding recommendation made are as follows. See the values there, adding up to 90,000. That total should be 399 like it is above, not 298. On line 69. 399. The same numbers, line 17.
So it should be 399 and 298?
Yeah, it should be 399,053.7. Yeah. Be it enacted that section 1, the 90,000 dispersed the academic competitions team shall be allocated as specified above. Section 2, upon passage by the student senate and signature of the student body president, these funds shall be transferred from NISA ACT RSV to the respective account of each academic competition team above, or distributed upon signing of the award agreement by members of the academic competition team as required by the university.
Thanks, Jacob. Are there any questions or corrections for the author, Caucus Leader Kidd?
Yeah, so in this legislation, we use clubs, organizations, and all like interchangeably. For consistency, could we just use registered organization? Or is there a reason why those different words were used?
Sometimes they are, we use them all interchangeably, on the previous allocations and so far. These ones are different. So not all of these are groups, organizations under the statute. So I would prefer to keep them flexible. Is there something is there one in particular that needs to be changed?
So I just noted lines 11, 14, and 30, just the term was different. When you're talking about the same thing for lines 11 and 14, that's why I thought the term should be the same. But then on line 30, groups was used, and so I just thought I'd bring it up.
I like changing 30 to organizations, so.
You make that change?
Yeah, I'll just do that. Make me do my own work.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, I know in the past, various academic competition team committees have decided how they were going to allocate funds in different ways. How is that done this year?
Sure. So in previous years, the committee has kind of looked at it and said, okay, we can do all of this for each organization plus half of this and kind of gotten up to a number and add some remainder. That is simply not possible with the dramatic amount requested compared to what we have to allocate. So the committee took a far more holistic approach to each organization on their outside funding possibilities, what fundraising they've done themselves, and what they actually need to compete, and their competitive success. So is there an easy, concise number or method I can give you? No, it's pretty different throughout. We were here for 14 hours doing it.
Any further questions or corrections? Caucus Leader Kidd.
I have a quick question. So out of all these different groups, can you speak a little bit more about which groups were able to fundraise more than others, and just what those overall impressions look like in the committee's discussion?
Sure. The ones that were able to fundraise the most were dependent on the number of members available. No college has more or less fundraising than others for the most part due to some ag DSOs have really strong departmental support and fundraising, but that is not consistent throughout or for engineering, anything like that. So it really depends on the amount of members. And it seems like the ones that are more competitively successful are able to fundraise more. What is the correlation there? I'm not sure. I would say probably involvement of the organization carries over.
Any further questions or corrections? Okay, seeing none, thanks, Jacob. You may take your seat. That is a motion to consider Resolution 67. Senator Questa.
I move to consider resolution 67.
It's been moved and seconded to consider Resolution 67. If the author will please come forward. Caucus Leader Bellamy.
Would you allow the author to summarize?
I object. Object.
Yeah. All those in favor of allowing the author to summarize, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. All opposed, same sign. The motion carries. You may summarize. I would prefer if you didn't, but you are allowed to. Senator Griffith, another speaker has the floor. I'll get to your point after he does not have the floor anymore. Senator Blood.
Point of information.
No, another speaker has the floor.
Question of privilege.
Granted.
The motion to allow the author to summarize is a motion to suspend rules. Do we have a 2/3 majority on hand vote?
Where does it say that the motion to summarize is a motion to suspend the rules?
It changes the normal operating procedure of Senate. That is a suspension of the rules.
Disagree. Oh. Senator Blood.
I move to challenge.
Oh my God.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to challenge my ruling. We've never had one of these in this SGA term before. Basically, this means that someone disagrees with what I have said. If you agree with me, if you want to affirm my decision, which is that we are going to let the hand vote on the motion to allow the author to summarize to stand, please raise your placards. All opposed? No, okay, raise your placards if you agree with me. Raise your placards if you disagree with me. I have some new enemies. My decision stands. You can summarize if you want to, but like I said, I would prefer if you didn't.
Okay, well, so this is the results as of now. There's still some like people pending, they've not responded back yet. But this will change most likely and next Thursday because people will get back to me. Senate operations will convene and we'll have to break a couple ties. But yeah, no, the names will change, but as of now, this is everyone who won in this last election.
I have a friendly amendment. Well, I have an amendment that I'm hoping is friendly. Can we strike Hannah Heatherman and replace her with Isaac Wingert because we have not heard back from Hannah yet? And Isaac did get back to me mere hours ago.
Sounds good.
I have another one. Can we strike Anna Koch? She has not officially accepted yet.
Well, that's what I was saying. I was gonna update it depending on like the people that respond back, because I don't want to cut off their ability to be a senator until then.
She is gonna get back to me when she decides. She got back to me and she hasn't decided yet. So can we
Okay.
strike her for now.
Yeah, yeah.
That was all I had. Senator Blood.
Question. Why did you write this and introduce this legislation today while there are pending election violations being litigated amongst the election?
The litigation was not pending, if you want to call it litigation, when we introduced the legislation, because as you know, Brian, the deadline is Monday at 11:59 PM. And as you know, Brian, that complaint was not filed before Monday at 11:59 PM.
Yeah.
Are there any further questions or corrections? Senator Kappelman.
On line 68, my last name got spelled wrong.
Brady, I don't know if we're ever gonna get it right.
I will defend myself by saying I did not type these names.
Brady, EL.
EL.
Sorry. Any, Chair Long?
I'm sorry, the authored legislation, you didn't type in my house.
No, I got them from our Excel sheet. So
I typed.
there's a
it into the
few,
Excel.
okay. He said, I was gonna say, there's a few people who manage that sheet.
I had to manually type all of the information off of the screenshots of the election results. I couldn't just copy and paste it. So I was
Pain in the tuchus.
anyway. Chair Phillips.
Can the author read all of the names just to ensure that there are no other spelling errors and make sure that they're all right?
No, they can read their own names like Brady did.
Bentley, just read the names.
I'm not gonna read the names.
Second.
No. Okay. Are there any further questions or corrections?
Need to make sure you don't butcher the.
Okay, seeing none, you can take your seat. With that, is there a motion to consider resolution 68? Senator Questa.
Move to consider resolutions.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to consider resolution 68. If the author will please come forward.
Hi, guys. Like I mentioned in my committee report, this is the approval of the fiscal year 2024 student-centered tuition enhancements allocation. Authors Kate Thomas, sponsors Tuition Enhancements Committee, and Evan Porter. Whereas the Kansas State University Student Governing Association Tuition Enhancements Committee is charged with the responsibility of evaluating student-centered tuition enhancements proposals. Whereas the SATE Fund provides funding for programs that enhance student experiences at K-State and seed money for the creation and implementation of new programs and initiatives. Whereas the estimated SCTE budget for fiscal year 24 totals $465,460. Whereas Tech considered 10 proposals for fiscal year 24, whereas all groups were provided ample opportunity to submit requests for fiscal year 24, whereas the SCTE proposals have been reviewed thoroughly for fiscal year 24, and whereas the following organizations have met all the guidelines established by the Kansas State University Student Governing Association. Be it resolved that Section 1, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association supports the following recommendations for the fiscal year 24 student-centered tuition enhancements money. The intercultural learning through Wildcat Dialogues requested $7,000 and is being allocated $7,000. Case managers, the Office of Student Life / Housing and Dining requested $114,438 and is being allocated as such. Kansas State University Esports Staffing requested $36,569 and is receiving $3,108. First Generation Education Abroad Initiative requested $49,800 and is being allocated $49,800. The Kansas State University Esports Program requested $218,000, $218,288 and is being allocated $71,840. Whereas the Office for Undergraduate Research, what is the CI? And something.
What's the?
Office of Undergraduate Research
and Creative Inquiry.
Creative Inquiry, requested $20,000 and is being allocated $20,000. Whereas Tools and Supplies for the Makerspace requested $30,000 and is being allocated $30,000. Whereas Absence Verification Support Specialist for the Office of Student Life requested $35,780 and is being allocated that amount. Whereas a Reimagine Study Space in the heart of campus is being requested $371,117 and is being allocated $133,494. Whereas the Student Union Bowling Center requested $166,738 and is being allocated $0. Section 3, any unspent funds shall automatically revert back to the SCTE reserve account at the end of fiscal year 24. And Section 4, upon passage of this by the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to the Provost and the Executive Vice President Charles Tabor, Chief Financial Officer Ethan Erickson, Vice President for Student Life and Dean of Students Dr. Thomas Lane, and University President Dr. Richard H. Winton.
Thanks, Kate. Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Before anyone says it, I got the Chief Financial Officer one. Chair Long.
Which ones of these are the last year?
Good question. I know that Wildcat Dialogues is in their last year of funding. Because as of this past year, for those who don't know, we got rid of priority funding. So things are only allowed to be funded for up to 4 years. Wildcat Dialogues is in its 4th year and the Office of Undergraduate Research and Creative Inquiry is in its last year.
Chair Phillips.
I don't know the exact. So the repeat funding proposals, it goes 1, 2, 4, 3, 4, 5, 8.
Oh, yeah, there was some copy and pasting there.
Gotcha, okay.
And the new one goes 1, 5, 6. So renumbering those.
I will get that fixed.
Because some of the new funding proposals were also new funding proposals last year that they chose not to fund, and some of the repeat ones were obviously on new last year, so there was some shifting around. Numbering on that.
Any further questions or corrections? Caucus Leader Kidd.
Sorry, I think you already mentioned this. Did you get line 61 for Dr. Cook?
Oh, I will get that one. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions or corrections? Okay, seeing none, thanks, Kate. You can take your seat. And seeing as we have exhausted our legislative agenda for the evening, we'll go ahead and move into our second open period. Are there any second open period speakers? Senator Griffin.
Okay, show of hands here. Who likes to play board games? Well, have I got news for you? In case you don't know, there is in fact a board game club here at A-State, which has the fantastic ability of not having any commitments. You can show up to the room on Friday evenings, room 207 here at the Student Union, play one board game, and then dip after that, and congratulations, you're a member of the board game club. Show up as many times as you want or as little as you want, starting 7 o'clock tomorrow at room 207 here at the Union. Please show up. It'd be very fun if you did.
What time is it?
7 to 10.
Are there any further second open period speakers this evening? Chair Phillips.
All right, everyone, the names are getting read. As someone who's run for Senate multiple times and has run a student body president campaign, I understand that a lot of times more than a year's worth of work goes into running for student Senate. And so I just personally think it's valuable to read the names as someone who has worked really hard for this in the past, and knowing that a lot of people on this list have worked really hard for it in the past. It's not a huge deal, but I think having your name read, it's just something that you've earned. It takes 2 minutes to read the names versus all the work that went into it. So I feel like it's necessary. Section 1, Student Senate adopts the results of the 2023 Kansas State University Student Governing Association general election, including the election of the following to their respective positions: Student Body President and Vice President, Caleb Stout and Jessica Binkley; College of Agriculture Student Senators, Paige Vogelmore, Clay Pelton, Patrick Biggs, Kelvin Peterson, Bryce Atchison, Riley Coy; College of Architecture, Planning and Design Student Senators, Brandon Kermer and Anna Koch; College of Arts and Sciences Student Senators, Kate Thomas, Samantha Sushanik, Andrew Navarro, Jack O'Malley, Austin Rios, Carson Cuesta, Jacob Hoffman, Marilu Rodriguez Melendez, Joseph Pondillo, Chase Glasscock, Jeremy Kamen, Robert Bruckner. College of Business Administration Student Senators, Sean Hoffmans, Andrew Abadir, Francesca Duntz, Allie Wolf, Brady Kappelman, Michael Jacobson, Sophia Cole, Gavin Strunk, Charles Kinsey. College of Education, Peyton Lynn, Drew Bellamy, Carly Saya. College of Engineering Student Senators, Jacob Long, Hannah Hartzell, Tatiana Rogers, Miles Rivard, Brian Blood, Tommy Compton, Nick Saya, Ethan Spindler, Dakota Broughton, Jolyon Griffith. College of Health and Human Sciences Student Senators, RJ Salmon, John Oury, Noah Camfield, Braylon Ayers, and Emerson Nichols. Graduate School Student Senators, Marcus Kidd, B. Dennis, James Fogel, Corey Kinsley, Hannah Heatherman, Matthew Melcher. Thank you all.
Thank you, Blake. Are there any further second open period speakers this evening? Chief of Staff Richenberg.
Okay, so sorry I'm doing this right now. We had our last cabinet meeting, so we were getting dinner at JP's as our last cabinet, so we were a little bit late to Senate today. And so I just quickly wanted to go over something that we've been doing this week. I'm sure you guys know about it. We talked about it last week, but Parker, Jeff, and I, Logan Cohn, Evan Porter, and Hattie Polson, we were all in DC this week for Big 12 on the Hill, doing some various advocating for higher education for the Big 12. Did you already talk about it?
Gave a director's report.
Okay, shout out to Logan, didn't know he was doing that. That's it. He said.
Thanks, Marta. Well, I didn't know this is what you were going to talk about.
No,
Are there any further second open period speakers this evening? Caucus Leader Kidd.
Okay, I promise I'll be super brief. So I, like whoever tonight, in my first Senate back in like 2010, when I was being installed, I made the motion to allow the author to summarize the election results. Back then, I got thrown to the wolves. I got ripped a new one multiple times by multiple people in Senate when it came to second open period. And so I think we've already kind of heard the importance of it from other speakers. But just speaking to it from someone that's been in the game for a long, long time, you do put in a lot of work. Even if you think that you don't, you actually do. For the students that are voting for you, it's really important just for that recognition to be had. The other thing I wanted to share really fast was that I know that some of you can be annoyed with me when I nitpick about the titles that we have in our legislation. So when you earn your doctorate or whatever, when you get the title to have DR in front of your name, you can nitpick all you want to if people want to call you by that or not. For people that work really hard to stress themselves out, stress out their families, stress out their loved ones, their partners, whatever, they put themselves through a lot of stress, okay? I'm considering going to therapy just because of how I'm failing, I feel at doing my doctorate right now. And so the mental health struggle is real. People really appreciate it when you respect them with their titles. And so as much as you may gripe or whisper certain things when I make a big deal about it, it's because those people aren't in the room to defend themselves and claim to make that proclamation that you should call them by their name, which has the doctor in front. So thank you all. Hope you guys have a great week.
Thanks, Marcus. Are there any further second open period speakers this evening? Okay, seeing none, Senate shoutouts. Oh. Okay, I'll read Senate shoutouts. Just give me a minute to find them. No, I want to do it. No. Hold on. They're in here somewhere. Well,
I'm into Carmen Curry and Bryce Atchison, read just.
overruled.
Third.
There are no motions. That motion does not exist. You made that. Okay, starting off. Shout out to the minutes. Shout out to SAC Facts. Shout out to SAC Facts. Two of you had the same thought. To Peyton for being a rocking emerging leaders coordinator despite record low involvement. I'd like to see these records. I'm not gonna read that one. Shout out to emerging leader coordinator. The limit does not exist, quote Evan P. The board game club for being such a good club. Show up tomorrow at 7 p.m. in room 207 at the student union. Shout out to the noise the mic makes when Marta pulls it down. Rap track update speaker. You're not getting the rap track, guys. I'm sorry. End of list. Thank you, everybody. And with that, I will do reference of legislation. Bills 105, 4 and 105 will be going to the Student Allocations Committee. Bill 106 will go to the Senate Executive Committee. Bill 107 will go to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Bill 108 will go to the Senate Executive Committee. Bill 109 will go to the Strategic Oversight Committee. Bill 110 will go to the Senate Operations Committee. Bill 111 will go to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Bill 112 will go to the Strategic Oversight Committee. Bill 113 will go to the Student Services Fee Committee. Bill 114 will go to the Student Allocations Committee. Resolution 67 will go to the Senate Operations Committee, and Resolution 68 will go to the Tuition Enhancements Committee. Chair Phillips.
I move to refer Bill 112 to the Senate Executive Committee instead of Strategic Oversight.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to refer Bill 112 to the Strategic Oversight Committee instead of the Senate Executive Committee. Debatable?
Instead of.
Instead of SOC.
Yes, and debate.
Come on.
Hey, folks, I won't make this too long because I know it's the end of the night. So I just wanted to move to refer this to the Senate Executive Committee instead of the Strategic Oversight Committee, because this is something that kind of deals with SGA as a whole. The creation of a new special committee is something that we would probably typically send to the Senate Executive Committee rather than oversight. I think that in order, preferably, this should be sent to the Senate Executive Committee, then potentially the Student Services Fee Committee, just because I personally feel that it deals a little bit with what our Student Health Advisory Committee does, which is something that the Student Services Fee Committee deals with a little bit. But for full transparency and all points of view, I think that that should go to the Senate Executive Committee rather than the Oversight Committee, so that we can just have a full holistic discussion about a special committee being created within this body.
Thanks, Blake. Seeing as that was debate in the positive on the motion, we're now seeking speeches in the negative. Are there any further speeches in the positive? Are there any further speeches at all? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of sending this to the Senate Executive Committee, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. All opposed, same sign. Okay, that motion does carry. This will be referred to the Senate Executive Committee. And unless there are any other motions to change where things are going, we'll go ahead and move on to our second roll call.
Anderson. Bannister.
Here.
Barron.
Here.
Bellamy.
Here.
Blood.
Here.
Broughton.
Here.
Brown. Compton.
Here.
Coy.
Here.
Cuesta.
Here.
Dennis.
Here.
DePaz.
Here.
Here. Glasscock.
Here.
Griffith.
Here.
Hoffman.
Here.
Kamen.
Here.
Kappelman.
Here.
Kirshen. Kidd,
Here.
Firmer. Here. Hensy,
Here.
Long,
Here.
Murphy. Moretti. Navarro. O'Malley,
Here.
Pelton,
Here.
Phillips,
Here.
Pilchard,
Here.
Bondillo,
Here.
Rogers,
Here.
Sia Carly,
Here.
Sia Nick,
Here.
Solomon. Schweier. Spindler,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Dushanic,
Here.
Talbert,
Here.
Dimkin,
Here.
Thomas,
Here.
Wolkamore,
Here.
Wolf. Okay, thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. With that, is there a motion to adjourn? Senator Kermer.
Move to adjourn until next Thursday, same.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn until Thursday at the same time, at the same place. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we will stand adjourned at 9:06 PM.
Yeah.